G'day, welcome back to the 40 channel. So, we're going to get this chassis rolling again. It's been a little while since we've done anything to it, heaps of stuff going on, which is okay. We're going to rip the springs off the axles, with the axles a really good clean up, freshen up, order all our new suspension. Hopefully it'll be here within the next week or so, and we can fit it all up. That way we can move it in and out, get some more room in here, and we can move forward on the FJ45 project. Right, the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is going to rip these monstrous springs off. They are some seriously solid springs. Now, being a ute, and obviously a fire truck, I would assume that these springs have been upgraded at some stage. We've got the original U-bolts on here, but amazingly, it's only just been held on at the bottom of the nut there. I would not recommend doing that. Ideally, you want to have at least 3 threads hanging out past your nut. And we're only just hanging on by about half a nut with these monstrous springs and these U-bolts. So that's not ideal. But it might make it a bit easier to come off because the end of the threads haven't been damaged as it's been cruising along. Well, we're just going to hit it with the R10. It's pretty rusted up. So we're just using a 19mm socket. That didn't come off too bad. Might actually go get the impact driver. See how they come off with that. The original U-bolts are in really good condition. And I'd actually say probably what saved them is that the nuts were only about this far on. So you can see the end of the nuts have been damaged, but we've had no damage to the thread, and they could possibly be kept for another project or used on this one. But we're going to put all new gear on it, so we'll keep these for something else a bit later on. Our support plates, again, are in great condition. Just going to cut these rubbers off. We'll get all new rubbers when we get the suspension. This thread is, again, in excellent condition. We'll just give it a clean up with a wire brush. Clean this all up, give it a good paint. Be all like new. Let's rip the other side off. Righto, so one of these U-bolts are a little bit worn away. So it's really chewed into the end of the thread, which compromises the U-bolt. So it gives it a weak point, and that's a possible point where it could snap later on. So it's probably a good thing that we've ripped these off, and then we're going to replace them. But we can still keep this. You never know, for an emergency backup or a spare or something like that. Don't just chuck them out. Hang on to them. Take care when you're lifting these rear springs. They're ridiculously heavy. So if you do think you need to lift it on your own, you've got no one else to help you out, make sure you lift from your legs and don't bend over straight from your back. Right, I'm going to take the rear brake line off. This goes between the 2 brake cylinders behind the brake drum. So we're going to take them off now. As always, we're keeping everything. We're bagging it and labelling it, so that way we don't lose it down the track. If you can't adjust the torque setting on your impact driver, then you're better off just using one by hand. Make sure you grab all these copper washers, don't lose them. Right, going to remove all the hardware off these axles. So we've already removed the brake lines. We're going to remove the little diff breathers so we can keep all these tabs. These ones are tack welded on, so that's okay. We'll just have to work carefully around them with the wire wheel. But we'll pull these off. Right now we don't want to leave that hole exposed. So just get a M10 by 1.25. We're just going to screw that in there. That way we can work right around at the wire wheel. We're not going to damage the diff breather. By blocking that hole off, we're stopping any rubbish or any gunk getting inside there, getting inside our diff gears. So that way we can try to keep it as clean as possible. Righto, time to clean up this axle. Strangely enough, this was the same that was on my last one. Got all this splatter that's built up over here from when they welded it, I guess, in the factory, and it was never cleaned up. So quality wasn't a major thing back then, I wouldn't imagine, back in 1965. So we're going to clean all that splatter up and make it look nice and smooth and pretty. Cleaned up really nicely just with a flat disc. All that welding splatter's gone now. So what we're going to do now is just give it a quick clean over with a stripper disc, and then we'll finish off with a wire wheel. We're ready for some paint. On the wire wheel, first off with the stripper disc, wire wheel, and then the whole wire brush to finish it off with. My wife to the rescue. Thanks. Righto, so we've cleaned up this axle really well, and you're probably wondering, if I'm going to paint this, what am I going to do with the rest of this? Well, the idea is, because you don't have much room, we don't have cranes, we don't have workbenches, that we can just throw it all on. We're doing it all outside here. If we can clean up this whole axle, we can paint right up to the ends here, and then when we put the suspension and the axles onto the chassis, we can pull off the wheels, pull off all the brakes, pull off the backing, and we can clean all that up and paint all that up separately. So I'm not too concerned about any of this at the moment, because all that can be cleaned up and painted at a later date. There is a method to the madness. Righto, we're done. It looks smick as actually. It's smooth, it's clean. Give it a really good clean down with some wax and grease remover, and then we'll hit it with some oxidizing primer. I'm going to clean the whole axle down with some Chemtools wax and grease remover. The great thing is I've got one of these little pump bottles. Fantastic. So again, you can get these from Chemtools. Just pump it up, spray it on, we'll wipe it down. If you're struggling for rags, I recommend just ripping up one of the kids' bed sheets. They won't know any different. I'm not actually joking. Fair income, this is one of the kids' bed sheets. Shh. All the wax and grease remover. Wipe the whole lot off. Not only will that remove any of that leftover dirt, wax, grease obviously, dust and all that stuff, get rid of it all, but you don't want any wet patches at all. So once you've wiped over the entire lot, just let it sit for a while. You actually see it sort of evaporate. The last thing you want to do is spray paint over where it's still wet. Your Galmax ZPH also comes in a nice handy sprayable aerosol can. The beauty with the ZPH is if it's lightly rusted, just give it a bit of a buff back with a wire wheel, clean it up best you can, clean it up with some wax and grease remover, and the ZPH can be used directly over rusty surfaces. This is a great oxidizing metal primer, so it'll seal up the rust and give us a good base to spray a top coat on over the. Now I know I'm going to get in trouble for this and I should be wearing a mask. I'd put a mask on if I was you guys. I'm just being really lazy. Most other primers, like your Gow primer or your Etch primer, has that dull matte finish. Your ZPH comes up with a high gloss, tough finish before you even put your top coat on. I really like this stuff. Very impressed. Now, as with the chassis, we're going to go overboard. So with the chassis, we did some serious rust protection. So this axle is going to be well and truly protected from any corrosion down the track. Right, Jack, we've just got a bit of delivery for the fire truck. This stuff has come all the way from Perth. Now that's 3,700 kilometres this stuff has travelled just for us to get to. Cool. Some rusty bits from Rusty. Righto, front drive shaft. The reason for that is because Jack smashed it over his head. Because Jack tried to karate chop it. Jack tried to bite it.
Only reasons.
So that was the front drive shaft that we pulled out. It wasn't going to do us any good. How'd that happen, Jack?
No clue.
He knows.
So we've got the steering box.
Excellent. Righto, steering box, what else?
So we've got the other parts for it. So we've got that. One would sit comfortably like that.
Nice. Alright, let's open to the next box. Righto. Check this box out. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is like an old chest from 1965. I reckon it'd be cool if we incorporated this old box on the back of the tray when we finish building it.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. I reckon we should do it. Open it up, Jack. Let's see what's in it. So this is how he sent it to me. So Rusty, all the way from Perth, packed it up in this really cool old box, which just suits the era of our old FJ45. So it's really cool. I'm super impressed, Rusty. I wasn't expecting this. don't get packaging like this anymore. Alright Jack, what's in here? Have a look. That looks very light.
I think that's way too light to be.
Wow! Wow! An empty box.
Oh, it's like
I think it was just for the packing. Kids are gonna love that bubble wrap. Righto, what's in there, Jack? What have we got? Ah, our steering arm, front right end. And the reason we got this arm is because, so that's the one that was on our cruiser. Very creatively put back together. Nice sort of strong back welded on it at some stage. What else we got, Jack? This is an exciting unboxing. Steering column.
nice.
It's great.
Oh.
Nice. Where do you reckon that goes?
Steering column.
Yes, nailed it. So that goes into the steering box. So here's inside the steering box. You can see that turning this steering shaft moves backwards and forwards. That is a really cool setup. You don't see steering boxes like that anymore. Righto, Rusty, thanks for that, mate. I'm super impressed with the box. I know I'm impressed with the parts, and I'm stoked that I was able to chase some parts down, which is good. But I reckon we can incorporate this box. What do you reckon?
I reckon we could.
In the back tray, old school toolbox.
Righto, we're continuing to prep all the stuff to get the suspension on, which is now ordered, but we're not going to get it in this episode. We'll clean up all the bits of hardware that we've ripped off the cruiser. So there's a whole lot of sharp edges and burrs and all that type of stuff on these. Especially these rear plates. Obviously these have taken absolutely caning over the last few years, driving through the bush and scrub, fighting fires and that type of stuff. So we've cleaned all that up. So there's no more burrs. We've straightened it out. It's quite dented. We've got a hammer, shifter, bending it back into shape. They will come up nicely. Anything underneath the vehicle, it's going to be really exposed to all sorts of environmental craziness, if that makes any sense. We're chucking on with the ZPH. Righto, swing arm. Let's hammer into this swing arm. I'm going to strip this down, punch out these bushes. So bushes have also been ordered with a whole new suspension kit. A bit of exciting news, okay? So here it is. The suspension kit is coming from Online Auto Parts. So Online Auto Parts and 40 Channel, we've got a bit of a collaboration going on, which is really cool. So they're going to jump on board. They're going to help me out with some pricing. But throughout the build, what we're going to be able to do is show you some of their products. So from Online Auto Parts, the first step we're going to do is we've ordered a full Tough Dog suspension kit. Now this Tough Dog suspension kit is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Now the cool thing about this Tough Dog suspension kit is we haven't just picked one straight off the shelf. We've been able to talk to the guys at Online Auto Parts and be able to work out exactly what we need for the truck we're building. So they work out your weights, they work out what you're going to be hanging on the front, hanging off the back, all that type of stuff. Right, so let's clean this swing arm up, we'll punch the bushes out, give it a bit of a paint, then we can set that aside and get that ready for the suspension install as well.
So just a 14mm spanner.
Righto, so make sure you keep all these bolts. They've got a reduced head on them. And they've also got a castle nut on the back, so we don't want to lose any of that type of stuff. Like everything through this build, bag everything and label it. These are in great condition, they're not bent or damaged. They're just flared out a bit at the top. So we'll just tap them back in, straighten them up a bit, punch these bushes out, clean them up for paint. Righto, so again we're going to use the same old trick. This is actually a 15mm socket. Just sit on the top and then we can punch out the bush. Makes it so much easier to get out. Let's knock this one out. Just going to give the bush area a little bit of a spray. Clamp that on the bench. Hopefully that'll make it a bit easier to get it out. Righto, there's the old bush. To me, it looks like these bushes have been replaced before. They actually look a little bit handmade. It's okay, it obviously did the job for all this time, but we're going to go with something of much better quality than what these are.
Righto, so that's it for this episode. Looks like we didn't achieve much, but I tell you what, we've spent a stack of time prepping and cleaning, getting ready for the suspension fit up. Cleaned and prepped all the axles, we stripped down the swing arm, all the componentry, removing all the rust, cleaning it all up. So we're making sure that we're going to be totally protected against all the extreme environments that this stuff's going to be exposed to. So there's some really good news coming down our way too, which is I'm pretty excited about actually. So we've got our suspension order, which is Tough Dog. So Tough Dog suspension's coming in. Australian-made poly-tough bushings. And all this is coming from Online Auto Parts. So that's really exciting. Online Auto Parts and 40 Channel, we're coming together. So in turn, we'll be sharing their products and how they're used in the fire truck build. Anyway guys, we had a fantastic response from our Chemtools giveaway last episode. People from all around the world responded, which is fantastic. But the international winner hasn't come forward yet. Righto guys, thank you so much for your support. It means an absolute lot to us. Feel free to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe. And make sure you take care of yourselves. And until next time, Jack's not here to say it. Thanks for watching.